Hey guys! So after I did my video the other day introducing the garden, I started looking at a lot of things. And something I've always had an issue with is knowing when to say when. And pulling up plants that are still producing, even if it's just a tiny little bit. I have a really hard time with that. Also the reason why I can't thin out seedlings, because I feel like a murderer, which is completely stupid, but still. So thought about it. There are still tomatoes on these tomato plants back here, but they're not blooming anymore. They're not really producing. Some of them are green, but I can still use those for other stuff. So they've got a lot of stink bugs, a lot of other pests in there, and they just don't look great. They're not gonna keep producing. And it's really time for me to be getting a fall garden ready, prepared. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make the really difficult choice today, and I'm going to pull up these tomato plants. And I'm actually looking at the purple holes, and I'm eyeballing those too, because I don't see any blooms on them. There are still some peas on there, and I will, everything I pull up, I'm gonna pull all the, whether it's a pea or a tomato, I'm gonna pull it all off. If it's still good, if it's green or it's not green, we're gonna use it for something. So, and the dry purple holes that are on there are gonna be great for seed for next year. So we're good. We're not wasting anything. But I need the space, and I need to start looking towards that fall garden. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these things up and just say, forgive me. And I think I can do it. I'm gonna try. And I'm gonna also go back there and weed whack that back corner and get all that stuff out of there too. So hopefully this garden is going to look a whole lot better in a little while, if I can stay on the heat. I'm just gonna throw all this over the fence for right now, and then I'm going to eventually, my plan is to come out here and make a compost garden out here. I have one up at the house, but I'd like to have a compost out here as well for all of this kind of stuff that comes out. A lot better, but I'm dying. I don't know what the heat index is today, but it's pretty bad. So I'm going to take a much needed break. How much I got after pulling those tomato plants up. There's actually a few more out there. You can see that. A lot of it's green. That's okay. We're gonna use those too. This is actually a tomato called a Dr. Weechies. And I worked really hard to get these. This was one of the ones I really wanted to try this year. It's an heirloom tomato. And when it's ripe, it turns yellow and kind of an orangish yellow. This one is actually overripe, so it's a little darker than what it normally would be. When they're yellow, they taste really good. Anyway, so I was really excited to get these this year, and these I would have left, but did not realize they were in there. That's how massive all those tomatoes were, and how hard it was for me to get in there to actually see what was going on. In the very beginning of the season, I actually did go in and I thinned them out like you're supposed to give it airflow and stuff, but they just went so crazy and grew so much that it got so thick in there I couldn't see half the tomatoes that were actually in there. So there were a lot of rotten tomatoes in there because I just couldn't see them to get them out of there. I did see two more of these in there that were still this color. And so these do not have first blush on them, which first blush is kind of a good example. This would be a good example. It's got just a little bit of color right there. A little bit of yellow, little orange, little red. This is called first blush, so when it has first blush, you can take these off the stem and they will ripen in the house. But if it's still green, if it doesn't have that first blush, chances are it's not going to turn red once you take it off the vine. So these are not going to ripen up for me. I found two on the other side of my little fence structure, and they're this green, but I think they're still attached. I did not pull up the plant by the roots on the other side, so I'm going to work around that and see if I can keep those on there and at least let those ripen on the vine. So all of these, again, are that one particular tomato that I told y'all about, that is the Vernissage. I mean, this tomato has just been, it's just extremely prolific. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I didn't really have the opportunity out there, it being so hot, to actually inspect each tomato. So I'm going to go through them and I'm going to set the ones that are really green aside, because I'm going to either make some green tomato relish, or I'm going to try this recipe that I actually saw one of my favorite YouTubers doing a tutorial on earlier, which is a green tomato ketchup. And I like that idea. Whatever I decide to use or decide to try, I don't want to waste these. I don't think that these would be very good for fried green tomatoes, which is one of my favorites. These might end up being fried green tomatoes, because that is super delicious. If you've never tried that before, so good. So those will definitely go for that. But so I'm going to set aside everything, and the ones that are ripe right now I'll set aside, and then I'll make a third pile for the ones that need to ripen up a little bit further. And then I guess these will probably become, I don't know what I'll make with them yet. I have a whole nother bucket in the fridge, so I definitely have plenty to make something out of. But I think I may make some, I'm not sure yet. I have to decide. I've already made just regular tomatoes, canned regular tomatoes this year. I've made some tomato sauce, and I've done lots of jars of salsa. So I might need to come up with a different something. Maybe I'll try some, well, I guess I can't really make paste or any of those, the thicker things, because these are not really paste tomatoes. These are more like slicing tomatoes, so they have an awful lot of water in them, and it would take a long time to cook that down to get it thick enough to be a paste or even a sauce. So we'll see. I'll come up with something. So I've done some cleanup, finished what I was going to do here with the tomatoes, and I feel pretty good about it. It's nice to have some space to be able to walk through here. For one thing, I found the Dr. Weechees. There's a couple more hanging here, one big one, and I just kind of propped it up for right now. It's not looking very good. It's got light and everything else, but I'd like to give those at least a little bit of a chance to ripen on the vine. So I'm going to come through here probably tomorrow or the next day and go ahead and plant another variety of tomatoes. It's actually it's an early variety. They call it an early variety, so it has a shorter maturity time, which I think will be good. It's called Jetstar, and they make big tomatoes, and it's just something I'd like to try. So I'm going to try that, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some volunteer Vernissage tomatoes over here, because there's so many that fell off the vine and just sat here and rotted. There's also cherry tomatoes in here too, so who knows what I'll end up getting. But I feel good about this. And I also got the corner back over here done. Got it cleaned up a little bit. I need to till it up a bit. Bring in some more of that mushroom compost. And then I think I'm going to plant some early variety small pumpkins along this fence line and just let them use the fence for trellis and see what I can get before Halloween. I still have enough time for the real little ones, the little decorative ones, so that might be kind of fun to do. But I feel pretty good. It's so hot out here, but I feel like I accomplished quite a bit, and I feel good about going ahead and getting those tomatoes out of here. Sometimes it's good to just have a clean slate and start a new season, so I think it was time. And I'm proud of myself. I was a big girl and I pulled them out. So, feeling pretty good.